We have Bitch Lake up that way. We have Beaver Lake down that way. And just on the other side of those, we have Crotch Lake and Melon Lake. So we got Crotch, Melon, Beaver, and Bitch Lakes in the area. You can't make this stuff up. Hey, welcome back to Side by Each. It's pretty early on a Thursday morning here, a bit windy, sorry on the microphone, but we're going to head out of Sharbet Lake here and head east towards Tweed, cut off at Arden and cross Arden Lake and a bunch of other lakes, and through some provincial park and some ungroomed trail areas, and then back up the K&P trail to this area. So we'll just get the video going here. It's a nice picturesque day and some nice snow on the trees, so everything should look pretty nice. This is my 2020 Expedition Xtreme here I'll be riding today. In my last video I posted, I went through a brief kind of basic overview of this machine if you want to check that out. The trip's about just shy of 140 kilometers or so. So anyway, like I said, let's just get this started here and get some riding in. I'm trying to give you some idea where I'm headed here. Like I said, I'll use the E108 trail, head towards Tweed. I'm going to cut off at Arden. I'll cross Arden Lake, Buck Lake, Bull Lake, Horseshoe Lake, Puzzle Lake Provincial Park, cross Puzzle Lake, Loist Lake, Norway Mud Lake, Norway Lake. I'll be heading down towards Yarker, crossing South Cranberry Lake, through the provincial park too. You go through quite a bit of flooded forest kind of areas too, so the only way I'll ever get there is by snowmobile in the wintertime. Keep heading south, across Camden Lake, Varty Lake, and head over to Yarker, and from Yarker to Harrowsmith, and then up north up the K&P trail, which is the E114E trail, and I'll end up back up here in Sharbet Lake. Okay, so far we've headed down the E108 trail, which is the old CP rail line trail. Headed to Arden. I crossed Arden Lake just a minute ago, came through some tight trail right there. One thing you note is these trails through this area are not groomed. There's no way to get the groomer to go through them. So you cross a bunch of lakes here, and then you go through some narrow bush trails from lake to lake kind of thing. So this is a trip I like to do once a year here. So next we'll head across Buck Lake, which is right here that I'm on right now. And then we'll do Bull Lake after a little bit of bush tour again, and then across Horseshoe Lake. And then we're going to head down a little bit of a side road and stuff like that. And then we'll be into the Puzzle Lake Provincial Park. always find this kind of interesting when I go by. This is kind of in the middle of nowhere here. We've got a grave for some people. Died 1874. It's actually pretty hard to read much of it here. 1909 it looks like, so yeah, just kind of something different. Like gravestone out in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, whoever's here, it's looks like a couple of people, but up to at least 150 years ago. What do we got here? Parks. Rest in peace, brother. I ended up running into one of the trail wardens down at the clubhouse in Yarker a little later on in this trip here, and we were talking about this spot. He was mentioning this is the old Parks family homestead from back in the 1800s, and that there's a few more headstones under the snow that you don't see there. That's obviously an updated headstone. I assume the family's put there, and that same family could even still own this property for all I know. So there's a little bit of interesting history from out in the middle of nowhere here from the 1800s on the trail. So here we are now, just a few minutes past that gravestone. So we're right on the borderline going into Puzzle Lake Provincial Park here. So we'll head just up this way just a little bit, cross Puzzle Lake, Loist Lake, Norway Mud Lake, and Norway Lake as we make our way through the provincial park here. That's one reason I like to do this tour here. It's a pretty nice area, and the only way a lot of this is accessible practically is by snowmobile in the wintertime. Like a lot of the stuff I'm driving over here is swampland, marshland, flooded forest, and small lakes and ponds, etc. So another thing today, extremely overcast. Even pointing the camera directly into the sun, you can see that it's barely poking through. So even though we have these nice wide open areas, you have to take it pretty easy. There's zero contrast, there's zero shadow, so everything just looks white. So if you're doing like 100 kilometers an hour or something, you could hit something pretty nasty, a big bump you won't see in time. So you have to kind of be careful on overcast days like this here. So we'll get back on our way here and head our way through the provincial park. That tiny lake I just crossed right there was Norway Mud Lake. Now I'm going to cross just the very southern tip of Norway Lake here, which is a fairly long, narrow lake that heads up towards the north. I kind of screwed up and started following some snowmobile tracks up north, so I had to turn around and backtrack and get back on course here. I usually do carry a silky folding saw with me on trips like this, and this is a pretty bad day to forget it with the kind of trails I've been going through and with all the weight on the trees. So it could have got to a point today where there was a down tree and I would have had to turn around and go back home, but so far so good. So here we are coming from that direction. We're almost out of the park, but not quite. If we kept going straight here, this will actually, right here, head down to Beaver Lake. This is a dead end trail I've never gone down. I'm going to hang a left here and head towards Camden Lake. So I'll head to Camden Lake in a minute and stop. And one more thing I forgot to mention, just up a little bit northwest of the park, we also have Bitch Lake. So we have Bitch Lake up that way. We have Beaver Lake down that way. And just on the other side of those, we have Crotch Lake and Melon Lakes. We got Crotch, Melon, Beaver, and Bitch Lakes in the area. You can't make this stuff up. Just starting to snow a little bit here. We were supposed to get more snow last night and today, but we didn't get quite what we were hoping for. But anyway, let's head down to Camden Lake. So we are kind of making our way back into civilization here a little bit. We're in some rural kind of farmland areas right now, and we're just coming up on Camden Lake. And after this we'll do a bit of cross-country running, and then we'll be crossing Vardy Lake into Yarker. Here's an example here of what I was mentioning a while ago. Like I said, it's so overcast, there's no shadows and no contrast, but you can see how this ice is heaved on the shore here into a big kind of a triangle, and that can happen out in the middle of these lakes too, so you have to be careful. If you're doing like 80 miles an hour or something, you hit something like that, you won't even see it coming, and that'll be a disaster. And I've actually been in a group of snowmobiles that hit one of those all at the same time, and it was kind of a mess. Nobody got hurt, thank God. But anyway, so yeah, we'll do the next leg, and maybe I'll stop in Harrowsmith, and then we'll head north for the final leg of the tour. Nice to see this leg is staked too. Some of the lakes I crossed up north were not staked, which made it kind of difficult. Everything's drifted over, it snowed, nobody's been out other than me because it's a Thursday, and it was tough to see the trail in a couple spots, and it's you know, some tiny little spots hidden on the shorelines to continue on the trail. So just to be aware, if anybody heads up there this year, they're usually marked. I don't know why they're not this year, but that's something to watch out for. You don't want to get yourself into a bad spot. A lot of those lakes are pretty slushy too. I was sinking in the slush. So, but nice thing about this machine with this big long track and these deep lugs is you push this lever here and you come out of that situation pretty quickly. So I'm just a bit over halfway through this trip here, about 140 kilometers, and here's the first sleds I've seen all day long. It's been pretty quiet out there in the middle of nowhere. Like I mentioned a minute ago, this is pretty much a rural area at this point, and it's going to be a combination of farm fields, a bit of ditches, and some bush trails connecting it all together, and some rail bed eventually into Harrowsmith. So next I'll be crossing Vardy Lake in just a little bit here. That'll be the last water crossing of the trip, and then we'll be making our way into the small town of Yarker. Here's the Lennox Addington Ridge Runners Snowmobile Club building here. I think this must be where they park their groomers. So this is a three-way intersection. I just came down from this way. You can head down to the right here. That'll take you down towards Napanee and those areas, I do believe. Yep, 24 kilometers that way, Newburgh. Smiths Falls, 90 kilometers to the left. We're heading to Harrowsmith, it's about 10 kilometers to the left. You do see quite a bit of these maps on most of the trails here and most of the major intersections, so just to give you an idea where you can get to. Calbogie, 130 kilometers. Like, so you can go for weeks in Ontario. There's 30,000 kilometers of trails, so you can pretty much get anywhere you want almost. Said the groomers are going out tonight. That's one of the trail wardens there. I just chatted with him for a few minutes, so a little bit of a delay, but we'll head our way up to get to Harrowsmith now through Yucca. Alright, so we made our way down from Yarker to Harrowsmith here. That was a pretty quick trip. That's just a straight up rail bed, nice and wide and smooth. So if you keep heading straight down, you'll hit Harrowsmith, and then you can go down towards Kingston to a point. And you can also head all the way up to Smiths Falls from this trail here. We're going to head, do a little U-turn here, head up through Verona and back to Sharbot Lake here, which, according to this, it doesn't even say. Oh, it's 47 kilometers, so that's probably about approximately correct to get to there. So yeah, we're on the home stretch here, and then we're almost completed the whole 140 kilometer loop today. So like I said, I'm on my final stretch here up to Sharbot Lake on the E114 E-Trail heading north. I highly recommend this loop if you ever get a chance to try it. The 101 trail that goes through Puzzle Lake Provincial Park up in those areas is super nice, very scenic drive. It's not your typical snowmobile trails that you would normally ride, so it's a little bit of variety and something different to try. I'm not going to do a whole lot of footage here on the way up north to Sharbot Lake. My next video I'm going to release, I'm going to come down this trail from Sharbot Lake to Harrowsmith and go to Smiths Falls to Perth and then back to Sharbot Lake, which is a 200 kilometer loop. So if you want to subscribe, you can check that video out, and we'll see a little more this trail I'm on right now in a little bit more detail. I hope you enjoyed the ride. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button, and I do hope you get a chance to try this loop out for yourself if you live close enough to the area. It's definitely worth your while in my opinion. So anyways, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you on the next video very soon.